In my presentation, I will be discussing Solomon enthroned with angels, beasts, and demons. I will identify the significance of King Solomon in Persian tradition, draw parallels between the artistic depictions of King Solomon and the Prophet Muhammad in the Shiraz school, and identify some of the common global Baroque influences on Safavid art. Solomon enthroned with angels, beasts, and demons is the recto of a double-page frontispiece folio from Firdausi's epic poem, the Shahnameh, done in ink, watercolor, and gold on paper. It is currently in the collection of the Harvard Art Museum, and the verso has since been separated. Although this verso is from a different series of the Shahnameh done by the Shiraz school, I have included Biclis enthroned in this slide to give you all a sense of how the folio would have looked originally. Also done in ink, watercolor, and gold on paper, Biclis enthroned is from the collection of the National Museum of Asian Art at the Smithsonian Institute, dated to circa 1590 to 1600 CE. One of the world's longest poems, the Shahnameh was written by Firdausi between 977 and 1010 CE and is considered the national epic of Greater Iran. Consisting of over 50,000 couplets, the Shahnameh is a semi-mythical, semi-historical retelling of Persian history, from the dawn of time until the Muslim expansions of the 800s. The depiction of Solomon and Biclis was commonly featured as a frontispiece adorning Safavid manuscripts. In Solomon enthroned with angels, King Solomon poses with his courtesans and his vizier Asaph, surrounded by birds, animals, angels, and demons, with the angel Gabriel seated at his right side. Here are some close-up slides of Solomon enthroned with angels to give you a better sense of the composition. Being a Hebrew king, Solomon is not included in the story of the Shahnameh. As such, the scene is not from a particular narrative, but rather serves to depict King Solomon as an ideal ruler by Persian standards, and to posthumously include him in the narrative of Persian history. The addition of a simurgh, the mythical split-tailed benevolent bird, in the upper portion of the composition, works to tie King Solomon into the Persian mythos, as the simurgh was featured prominently in the narrative of the Shahnameh. In comparison, the Prophet Muhammad's ascent to heaven is a folio from an illuminated manuscript of the book of Layla and Majnun, a chapter from the epic Persian poem by Nizami Ganjavi known as the Khamsa or Panj Ganj. Like Solomon enthroned by angels, the Prophet Muhammad's ascent to heaven does not depict a scene from the associated story. Rather, it serves to tie in an Arab ruler into the narrative of Persian divine authority. Juxtaposing the Prophet Muhammad's ascent to heaven from the manuscript of Khamsa with King Solomon enthroned by angels is striking. This piece places the Prophet Muhammad within a similar context as other divinely appointed rulers in art produced by the Shirazi school. It carries the distinct design language employed by this group of artisan intellectuals from the 14th throughout the 16th centuries. The use of deep, dark lines and vibrant color is a hallmark of the work produced by the Shiraz school, especially during the mid-15th century. In the Prophet Muhammad's ascent to heaven, the Prophet Muhammad is depicted with his face veiled, as was the artistic convention in Safavid art beginning in the early 1500s. He is surrounded by angels much like King Solomon was. But rather than being seated at a throne, the Prophet Muhammad is seated on his human-headed steed Buraq. He is guided by the angel Gabriel, carrying a flag in the deep green hue of the Prophet Muhammad's banner, as he makes his night journey or mirage from the holy city of Mecca to Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. Here are some close-up slides of the Prophet Muhammad's ascent to heaven. The flames illuminating the heads of Solomon and the Prophet Muhammad are strong signifiers of these leaders' divine purpose and closeness to God in heaven. The expression of the curvature of these flames carries a distinctly Baroque rhythm and energy. The design language and artistic conventions of the Shiraz school, such as vibrant color and expressive flames, can be found throughout the global Baroque's wide boundaries of influence. One piece in particular, Castiglione's The Kang Long Emperor as Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom, stuck out as being analogous to the King Solomon enthroned with angels. Created by the Imperial Workshop, with the face finished by Giuseppe Castiglione, the Qianlong Emperor as Manjushri is a mid-18th century Buddhist tanka, a type of painting or textile image made to convey religious concepts in a similar manner as the illuminated manuscripts created by the Shiraz school in the 1500s. The emperor Qianlong is placed at the center of the universe in the form of a bodhisattva of wisdom, Manjushri. In his left hand he holds the wheel of law, and he is surrounded by 108 deities representing his Buddhist lineage. Above lies an image of Ronpai Dorje, a Tibetan spiritual leader and teacher of Sanskrit. Altogether, this composition serves to tie the Manchu ruler of China to the Tibetan spiritual lineage and cosmological hierarchy in the same way the Shiraz school used art to tie Hebrew and Arab leaders into the narrative of the Iranian national epic. Here are some close-ups of the Qianlong Emperor as Manjushri. The pastel color palette of these works is also quite similar and evokes a sense of sky, land and sea in the same vision, an angel's eye view. The revolving, rotating, and circular geometry of the composition bears similarities, in particular between King Solomon and the Qianlong Emperor. Altogether, these compositions give us the same cyclical sense of celestial power, omniscience, divine authority, and a rhythmic dance that announces divine appointment returning to and from eternity. The symbolism of divine authority enthroned on earth and surrounded by celestial beings, used by both compositions, is unmistakable. The positioning of the thrones above bodies of life-giving water is notable, with the Qianlong Emperor's throne upon a lotus rising out of a pond, and the throne of Solomon positioned above a river, perhaps the river Nile in the semi-mythical land of Sheba. I thought the contrast between the ducks idling on the river on the left and the dragon kings rising out of the pond on the right was worth mentioning. I also found the flames surrounding the various Buddhist deities in the lower half of the composition to be almost identical to the flames used by the Shiraz school to denote the divinity of King Solomon and the Prophet Muhammad. Shown together, these pieces are so similar in their composition and communication that they could almost form a triptych. They would look quite at home displayed in the same gallery or hung upon the same wall. These pieces show how over the centuries the design language and multicultural themes of the Shiraz school, the Qianlong Imperial Workshop, and Giuseppe Castiglione translated seamlessly along the trade routes of the Silk Road and carried the cultural influence of global Baroque from Europe to the furthest corners of the globe.